Okay, princess, here's the full story. This is a completed historical romance novel with a 9 rating. May beautiful princesses lose 15 pounds and average princesses get rich every year. Willow Yangi reminds you. The main text begins. The crown prince and crown princess were deeply in love, and I was merely the crown prince's concubine. However, neither of them dared to raise their voice at me, because before I married into the Eastern Palace, I was the head disciple of Mount Kunlun's Yensong Palace. I specialized in using a profound iron saber to dominate the martial arts world. People called me the widow's blade, and it was said that even a husband couldn't withstand it. I once galloped through the martial arts world, single-handedly challenging the masters of the 9 great sects. Just as I was about to unify the Central Plains martial arts, my mother's urgent letter called me home. She insisted I marry the crown prince as a concubine, and so, Lu Ruyan, the rising future martial arts grandmaster of the Central Plains, was forced into the Eastern Palace. Of course, I was the only one who regretted this. I heard that ever since my mother called me home to marry, martial artists would pray to my mother before leaving their homes, because a woman who could subdue the demoness of Yensong Palace was definitely not someone minor villains would dare to offend. When I was little, I was often sickly. Back then, my father hadn't yet achieved success, and our family was so poor that even rats would cry. We didn't have much money for my medical treatment. Whenever I got sick, my mother would hold me and cry by the doorway. When I was 4, I was so ill I almost died. An itinerant Taoist saw me and told my mother that my fate was too strong, and the inner chambers couldn't hold it, which was why I was always sick. He wanted to take me as his disciple. My mother, seeing I was on the verge of death, decided to treat a dying horse as if it were alive, and let me become his disciple to learn some martial arts. It turned out this Taoist was a big swindler, specializing in abducting children to practice dark arts. No sooner had he tricked me away from my mother than he ran into my master, who had just come down the mountain. My master, upholding justice, killed him. Seeing me on the verge of death, he took me back to Yensong Palace. To my surprise, after I recovered, I truly became a gifted martial arts prodigy. After 8 years of training, I surpassed all my senior and junior fellow disciples. In Yensong Palace, strength was everything. Whoever was stronger became the senior disciple. When I was 13, I was unrivaled among my peers. I dominated the new martial arts talent competition, overwhelming all the prodigies, and became the head disciple upon my return. At 15, I passed the 9-band Hall Elders trial and went down the mountain for training. Before I left, the sect leader, who had been in seclusion for a long time, specially emerged to teach me about the ways of the martial arts world. The sect leader said that my master, when he first descended the mountain, took out 3 bandit dens, astonishing everyone, and hoped I could surpass him and contribute to the harmonious development of the martial arts world. My master was even more direct. Ruyan, there are no rookies in Yensong Palace. If you encounter bandits down the mountain and can beat them, say you are the 36th generation disciple of Mount Kunlun's Yensong Palace. If you can't beat them, then our master-disciple relationship is over. I went down the mountain with a mix of apprehension and yearning. When I left, my 4 junior disciples came to see me off, especially my youngest junior, who cried so hard he couldn't speak. I was incredibly moved, thinking my meticulous guidance hadn't been in vain. Although I was strict, my junior disciples knew what was good for them and had deep affection for me. But as soon as I turned around, I heard my junior disciple finally blurt out, "Great! Senior sister is down the mountain. I won't have to get hit by her blade anymore." The snow on Mount Kunlun was truly cold. To ensure my junior disciples remained diligent in their martial arts practice, before I left, I performed a set of my self-created wind-catching blade techniques for them. My deep care moved my junior disciples almost to tears. Author Yang Lui reminds you. The excitement continues. At that time, I had just emerged from the mountain, an unknown nobody in the martial arts world. Although I wielded a profound iron saber, my blade technique was unheard of. I named it wind-catching myself, because when this set of blade techniques was performed, the blade moved extremely fast and unpredictably, as if it could even catch the wind. How crazy! I really don't know what those martial artists were thinking, insisting on calling me Widow's Blade. Sigh, no matter how much I say, it's all about the past. Matters of the martial arts world scatter like the wind. Now, I am concubine Lu of the Crown Prince. When my mother's 3 letters called me home, I had just finished a 3-day battle with the leader of the Divine Blade sect to determine who was the current #1 in the martial arts world. In the end, I had a slight edge, cutting him 7 times, breaking 3 of his ribs and 4 teeth. Of course, I also got cut 3 times, fracturing my left arm, and was covered in blood and dirt, but I felt exhilarated. At 18, Lu Ruyan, was about to dominate the martial arts world. I was the youngest person, and I had chopped down most of the older generation masters. For years, I had galloped through the martial arts world without a single defeat, punishing evil and promoting good, helping the weak and suppressing the strong. I was a true heroine. Once my injuries healed, I would participate in the martial arts conference, and I would become the youngest martial arts alliance leader. Throughout history, who else could claim to be the greatest genius but me? However, plans couldn't keep up with rapid changes. My mother sent 3 groups of people to chase me, urging me to return home. Since sending me away, my mother had also sent many things and letters to Mount Kunlun. Judging from the increasingly rare and valuable items, my father's career development in the imperial court in the past 2 years must have been as rapid as mine in the martial arts world. But I was either practicing martial arts or chopping people, so I hadn't seen my family in a long time. The messenger said he was our family's butler, named Lu Bing. As soon as he saw me, he called me young miss. All these years, I had traveled north and south, hearing people call me senior sister, young hero Lu, or demoness, but never young miss. It felt a bit awkward. Lu Bing, holding the letter, saw me approaching with a long saber, bloodstains still fresh on my clothes, looking like a female Grim Reaper reincarnated. He was so scared that his eyes rolled back, and he fainted on the spot. Several outer disciples of Yansong Palace carried him into the hall. After about 15 minutes, he woke up. As soon as Lu Bing woke up, he gasped for air and cried out, "Oh, young miss, why is your life so hard? Your master and mistress would surely be devastated to see you suffer like this." The young disciples looked at him curiously. One bold one even asked me, "Senior sister, did you hit him too?" Before I could answer, someone else said, "Nonsense. Senior sister couldn't possibly hit him. How could I hit someone so powerless? With senior sister's blade, such a person would surely not be left alive." All right, I thought, that's an affirmation of my strength. I regulated my internal energy for a week, and my fractured hand was bandaged. I waved my hand, shooing away the peeking young disciples. I figured this person had cried enough and wondered how to start talking. This was the first time I had seen my family since I was 4 years old. Hey, calm down, I said. My mother didn't explain things very clearly in her letter. Did she give you any verbal messages for me? Lu Bing hiccuped. His crying softened considerably. His eyes darted around as he said, "Madam just misses you." It was clear he wasn't telling the truth. I subtly used a bit of my internal energy. For someone with deep internal cultivation, the pressure on ordinary people is immense, usually scaring them into telling the truth. "Just tell me a reliable reason," I said. "My arm still needs a couple of days to recover. Don't bother me unless it's urgent." Lu Bing sobbed for a long time before finally telling me the truth. "What, getting married?" I exclaimed, accidentally smashing half a table. Lu Bing immediately fell to his knees, terrified. I wasn't angry, just found it absurd. With my reputation in the martial arts world, who would be so foolish as to marry me? Hadn't he heard of the widow's blade? Lu Bing, trembling with fear, told me what had happened. The crown prince had been childless for 3 years, so the emperor wanted to assign him 2 concubines. However, before they could marry, one developed a face full of pimples, was too ashamed to be seen, and entered a monastery. The other fell into a lake and died. How inauspicious, too inauspicious. The emperor then found a few ox-nosed Taoists and asked, "Oh, masters, why is it so difficult for my son to marry concubines?" The Taoists rambled on, their main point being that those 2 women weren't strong enough to withstand the crown prince's vital energy. They needed to find someone with a strong fate to protect the household. The emperor slapped his forehead. "Isn't this a coincidence? Doesn't my good prime minister have a daughter whose fate is too strong, which is why she's been cultivating outside? So, he sent an imperial decree to my home, insisting that I become his son's concubine. My parents dared not defy the decree and could only send people to find me. I listened, speechless, not knowing where to begin complaining. Tell me which Taoist master was spouting nonsense. I'll go chop him down." Lu Bing lunged forward and hugged my leg. "Oh, young miss, Please come back with me to take a look. If you don't go, the lives of over 300 people in the Liu family are in danger. You get up first. I said, young miss, defying an imperial decree is a grave crime. I didn't say I wouldn't go back. I added, young miss, even if you beat me to death, you must go back. I helped him up with a sigh, feeling suddenly morally blackmailed by over 300 lives. Going back was definitely necessary, and marrying wasn't out of the question either. I rested for a few days, sent a letter to my sect, and then, with Liu Bing, rode quickly towards the capital. Originally, Liu Bing had prepared a luxurious carriage for me, but I refused it, finding it too slow. If I wasn't mistaken, his expression was a little sad when I refused. For martial artists on the road, it was common to stay in dilapidated temples if they couldn't reach a city by night, but I hadn't expected Liu Bing to be so delicate. This young man, barely in his 20s, fell ill after 2 days of travel. The end result was that he stayed behind to recover, and I returned to the capital alone. Without Liu Bing, I traveled even faster. 4 days later, when I arrived in the capital, I realized I had forgotten to ask where my home was. Without Liu Bing, I had to contact Yensong Palace's branch office to see if they knew. The Yensong Palace branch in the capital was a restaurant, and the branch master was my former junior disciple, Jia Xinfeng. He wasn't great at martial arts, but he was excellent at business. Under his management, Yensong restaurants had opened all over the country, sending a lot of money back to Kunlun every year. Hearing I had arrived, Jia Xinfeng happily rushed to find me. He almost got stuck in the doorway. After a few years, my junior disciple had grown plump and well-fed, his flesh jiggling. I wondered how much of Yensong Palace's martial arts he still remembered. It looked like he had eaten it all. Senior sister, why are you here? Are you going to duel with some master in the capital? Oh, no, not at all, I said, taking a sip of tea and pouring him a cup. I'm here to get married. What? Jia Xinfeng spit out all his tea. Luckily, I reacted quickly and moved away in time. Senior sister, who are you marrying? I pointed upwards. The crown prince. Jia Xinfeng stood up shakily, cautiously looking around. After closing the windows and doors, his plump face pale and nervous, he asked me, are we going to rebel? I tapped his head with my saber sheath. What are you thinking? I told him what had happened, and then expressed my hope that he would quickly help me find out where my family lived. Jia Xinfeng looked at me with a complicated expression for a long time, drank half a pot of tea, and wiped his sweat several times. Senior sister, are you really planning to marry the crown prince? He asked. I have to warn you, if the crown prince makes you angry, you can't chop him, and you can't chop the crown princess either. I don't chop people every day, I retorted. But senior sister, in the 3 years since you left the sect, besides the Ame sect, which is all nuns, which sect haven't you chopped? At this, Jia Xinfeng spoke with pained indignation, his voice growing louder. Now, when junior disciples go out for training, they don't dare to reveal their origins, for fear of encountering your enemies. Senior sister, I nervously wiped non-existent sweat. What he said was true. When I first came down from Mount Kunlun, I was rather impulsive and eager to prove my strength. I don't know which deity I offended, but my brain was addled, and I challenged all the large and small martial arts sects from Kunlun Mountain eastward. I wielded Shining Star and fought and chopped my way through, causing chaos in the Central Plains martial arts world. Even the demonic cults in Yingzhou had a better reputation than me. During that time, the major sects urged their disciples to practice martial arts diligently. They no longer spoke of how brutal the demonic cults were or how martial artists should eliminate evil for the people. They simply said that the widow's blade would soon come knocking, and whoever didn't practice diligently would be the first to fight me. It was all youthful recklessness. I hit some people, and some small-minded sects insisted on getting even. There was nothing I could do, so I chopped a few more elders. As I chopped, the reputation of #1 blade in the martial arts world emerged, but it always brought trouble. The greater my reputation, the more people sought me out for duels. Those who knew they couldn't beat me could only go after my junior disciples. After all, martial arts prodigies like me were rare. My junior disciples, just starting out, suffered immensely, but a sharp sword comes from grinding, and plum blossoms smell sweet from bitter cold. After me, the junior disciples who came down the mountain clearly improved their skills. That day, Jia Xinfeng, shocked by the bad news, finally went to inquire about my family's current residence after a night of calming down. My father held a high official position now, but his reputation wasn't good. He was constantly reviled as a great corrupt official. Truly a father and daughter. I was reviled in the martial arts world, and he was reviled in the imperial court. Knowing the exact location, I proactively went to their doorstep. The main gate was quite grand, with stone lions taller than me at the entrance. When the doorkeeper heard me announce my purpose, he immediately beamed like a flower and scurried off to call the butler. The butler looked like an older, more weathered version of Lu Bing. I asked, and indeed, it was Lu Bing's father. I told him that Lu Bing was ill and would return in a couple of days. He felt quite guilty and insisted that when Lu Bing returned, he would bring him to apologize to me properly. So many rules. Before I even entered the main hall, I saw a beautifully dressed woman, adorned with jewels, scurrying over. As soon as she saw me, she began to sob. If I wasn't mistaken, it was probably my mother. My mother, indeed. My mother held me, crying so much she couldn't speak. But I didn't feel much. Mainly, I had been away from home for too long. All these years, I had been fighting, and I really hadn't had time to think about home. Martial artists weren't big on this kind of sentimentality. My mother cried while holding me for a while before someone persuaded her to go inside. The saying familiarity breeds shyness was true. We faced each other, and for a moment, neither of us knew what to say. We couldn't just stare at each other forever. I bravely said to my mother, "Mom, I'm home." My mother nodded, twisting her handkerchief, still teary-eyed. Yes, it's good to be home," she said. "Let your mother have a good look at you." My mother and I had a very formal and polite conversation for a while. Finally, I was the one who asked, "When does the Crown Prince plan to marry me?" My mother looked at me with an embarrassed expression, her eyes still holding a hint of guilt. "Ruyan, mother truly had no choice," she said. "When you left home at 4, I felt I had wronged you. Which girl doesn't enjoy enough blessings under her parents' knees before getting married? You've grown so big, and I haven't even made you a single piece of clothing. I always thought you'd come back after completing your training, and then I could compensate you. Who would have thought 3 years would pass, and you wouldn't return even once?" She spoke, and then started to cry again. She stood up and took my hand. I looked down at her hand, fair and delicate, with nail polish, unlike mine, which were coarse from holding a blade. A faint scent emanated from her. For a moment, I even wondered what I would be like if I hadn't left home back then. Would I be like those magistrates' daughters I saw in Jiangnan, pampered and coy, worrying only about rouge and powder, occasionally reciting a few sentimental poems in the garden? But there are no ifs in this world. Besides, I didn't think there was anything wrong with my former life. I was almost the leader of the Martial Arts Alliance. The Emperor issued a decree, and your father and I really had no choice. She continued, "Your father didn't try to find a way out. Your younger sister even offered to take your place, but the emperor specifically designated you. Defying an imperial decree is a grave crime. Your mother isn't afraid to die, but there are still these people in the manor, and you have a younger sister." I was so bewildered by my mother's crying that I didn't even notice someone had arrived. When I heard the sound, I looked towards the doorway. A young girl stood there, looking a bit younger than me. She wore a water-red dress. She resembled my mother somewhat, but her temperament was completely different. She was like a blooming peony, delicate and lovely. The young girl rushed over, a little out of breath. "I'm not afraid to die either," she said. "If elder sister doesn't want to, then let me marry. Must I watch the Lu family suffer for this defiance?" She turned and looked at me fiercely. "Elder sister, will you disregard our parents' lives?" I thought for a long while. It seemed I hadn't said I was unwilling. "Well, there's no need for that," I replied. After a sincere discussion, my family finally believed that I had voluntarily returned to get married. My father said he had prepared my dowry. My mother had been saving for years, and knowing my martial arts skills, she even prepared 2 precious blades from the western regions, placing them in the dowry chests. The emperor was in a hurry. Hearing I had returned home, the wedding date was set for the 3rd day of next month, which was 8 days later. Before the wedding, the empress sent 2 nannies to my house to teach me palace etiquette. The first day they arrived at my home, they frowned upon seeing me. They lectured me about a bunch of messy palace rules, which were more annoying than listening to scriptures at Laying Temple. Thankfully, 2 assassins in black arrived that night. Before they even entered the house, I chopped them down, one by one. I was experienced in fighting, so I left one alive, planning to hand him over to my father to question. The two nannies, half asleep, saw me chopping people in the middle of the night. More decisively than the guards in the manor, they instantly sobered up. Their attitude towards me suddenly became amiable. They no longer hounded me about my crude and disrespectful behavior. These past 8 days had been quite busy for me. First, I chopped 2 assassins. Then I discovered poisonous snakes in my room, and 3 types of poison in my meals. 2 were for disfigurement, and 1 was fatal. Life in this deep, secluded courtyard was quite eventful. On the night of the 2nd day of the 8th month, the eve of my wedding, my mother wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with me. I mercilessly refused. Mainly, I was afraid she would start crying again. These past few days at home, my mother's eyes would well up with tears whenever she saw me, as if I wasn't getting married but going to the execution ground. My mother stood at my door, holding my hand, saying, "Ruyan, your mother still can't get over it." I sighed deeply, not knowing what to say. If she really couldn't get over it, then she shouldn't have called me back. Since she called me back, there was no need to say such things. I actually knew my mother was speaking from her heart. She truly felt she had wronged me, but she was even more unwilling for my father, siblings, and other relatives to be punished for defying the decree. This was human nature, after all, as feelings have their closeness and distance. Although I was also her daughter, I hadn't grown up by her side. It was just that her constant crying these past few days had really annoyed me, so I couldn't help but say, "Mother, if you feel so bad, then why don't you let father reject the emperor?" My mother didn't expect me not to comfort her today. For a moment, she couldn't find the words to respond to my suggestion. Now there's no room for regret," she stammered. "Your father also had no choice. It wouldn't be right to let Ruju take your place, would it?" "I read the imperial decree," I said. "It only mentioned a daughter of the Lu family, not a specific name. It wouldn't be impossible for Ruju to go." My mother's voice became urgent. "Your sister is timid and delicate, pampered since childhood. How could she be a concubine?" "Indeed," I said calmly, pulling my sleeve out of her hand.